following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee. Welcome into Casey's Take on Sports, where there's always a take on what's happening in the world of local and regional sports. Now, here's your host, sports reporter for the Dixon Post and Cheatham County Exchange. Here's Casey Patrick.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? Just got a few things to go over this week. I was on break last week, had the vacation. I'm back. The old wood panel walls behind me, so y'all know I'm back home. But we're going to talk about March Madness because that's probably the biggest thing going on right now. I also wanted to talk about Robert Kraft. He had a little thing he said about the Patriots a few days ago. He's the Patriots owner. We're going to talk about that. MLB baseball. We've got baseball back. Spring training playing right now. Opening week coming up before too soon. And then, of course, we're going to end it off with some high school sports. Y'all know the deal. Stay here. Let's get on into it. Now, before I get too far into this, I will say I watch a few podcasts and I listen to a few other podcasts, but the music we have for this one, I got to shout out my buddy JP Plant. He come up with all that, or I don't know if he made the music, but he found it for me. I like the music. I think it sounds good. I think I heard him turn it up a little bit right there. But we'll get on into my first take. We're going to talk a little bit March Madness. Of course, right now, basketball is the biggest thing going on in sports world. And I had it up on my phone. I had to pull it back up real quick. Right now, we're back down to the Final Four with Villanova and Kansas are going to play Saturday at about 5. And then at 7:49 is what my phone says, North Carolina and Duke. So I'm sure everybody's excited to see a North Carolina-Duke game because those never happen. Villanova-Kansas, though, I was telling some friends of mine the other day, I think Nova's the team to beat. Jay Wright is the best coach, one of the best coach at least in all of NCAA basketball. I know Kansas is a 1 seed, but I think they're just a hair overrated. But Villanova's got some pretty good talent. They got a great coach. And you know, they're not the one and done type team. They like to recruit the guys they want. They give them some time to develop. They get ready to play. They go out there on the court and they play really well. That's why they've won like three national championships in the last few years. That may be completely wrong. I don't know why I thought that, but I'm going to take Villanova to win. Right here on my little app, it says Kansas is 4.5-point favorites. I'll take Nova. On the other game, we got, like I said, North Carolina, Duke. I don't really care who wins. I like North Carolina's blue a little bit more, but I don't care about either one of those teams. I know it's Coach K's little sending away tour. I do like Coach K, but I don't really care much for Duke. I just don't, never have. So it's I don't know. It's going to be kind of weird to see that game. Duke's 4-point favorites in that one. I like Duke to win that game. I think North Carolina's been playing well, but I do believe Duke's better. Paolo Banchero is one of the best players in the country. He's going to be a lottery pick. Hopefully that's a good game for TV. Hopefully it's fun to watch. Hopefully it doesn't get out of hand either way, either one way or the other. I'm excited to see what kind of happens. And then let's see, championship game. It don't even show up. It's probably Monday. Sorry about my door. It keeps opening on its own. We got some crazy wind at Dixon today. But anyway, that's about all we've got left. But before I go on to the next thing, I did want to say, shout out to St. Peter's. The Peacocks, they were on a run. They were fun to watch, too. I like their coach. I enjoy watching those Cinderella, those Cinderella teams. I think we all get a big kick out of that, even if they're not our team. I saw Sister Jean or whatever her name was, and Loyola Chicago beat my Volunteers a few years ago, and that was heartbreaking. But other than that, usually when you get to see these teams that, quite frankly, don't really there's not really a whole lot of reason to believe they'll get to a certain point. Watching them, Florida Gulf Coast is another one. When they beat Florida a few years ago, I think they beat Michigan State or somebody else that was a 2 seed. It may have been Villanova. I can't remember anything. Brain's not working. But those Cinderella teams, those are fun to watch. And shout out to them, though. The Peacocks, they were fun to watch this year. Came to an end. Hated that for them. But hopefully they'll get hopefully they made a little bit of got a little bit of momentum from that, and they can carry that on with their program. So shout out to them. But March Madness, baby. Well, it's almost April, but March Madness. Enjoy it. Go on to the next take. I was scrolling through something. It was probably ESPN or God knows what, but some kind of sports thing, and I came across an article that stated that Robert Kraft was bothered by the fact that his team had not won a playoff game in 3 years. And, of course, their last playoff game was the Super Bowl against the Jared Goff Rams. I think that was 13-3. First of all, I will say this. Kraft kind of – I do think he kind of backtracked a little bit in this interview that he had, because he went on to say that he liked the core of his team. Of course, he still, he likes Bill Belichick. He ought to 7 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls, whatever it is. But he kind of did backtrack, and he said he liked where his team was at, and he liked what he thought he could see out of them in the future. But can you imagine how spoiled you have to be to not be happy with a lack of playoff wins in 3 years? And it's not like his team really went away. I mean, they had a little bit of struggles there. The Cam Newton thing didn't really work out, but I mean, he wasn't awful. He wasn't the reason why they lost most of the games. It just hit me in a weird way. I don't know how else to explain it, but it bothers me that Robert Kraft is bothered because his team hasn't dominated the playoffs the last 3 years. You have one of the greatest coaches of all time. You had somebody who I believe is the greatest player of all time. You won 6 Super Bowls out of that marriage. You've had nothing but success over the last 2+ decades. Shut up. I mean, your team isn't dominating everybody for the last 3 years. The last 3 years, I'm a Titans fan. Last time we got to the Super Bowl, it was heartbreaking, and we haven't been there in over 20 years. And I know you can't really compare apples and oranges and stuff like that, but I mean, they're pretty close to 2 apples because they're both NFL teams. But there are a lot of teams out there that don't have any success. They haven't found a whole lot of success. Imagine being a Lions fan and hearing that Robert Kraft is bothered by the fact that his team doesn't have any playoff wins the last 3 years. Think about it. And I like the Lions. I have nothing against them, but we all know how poorly they've played over the course of basically their entire history. But Robert Kraft being bothered, how do you get that sense of entitlement? That bothers me. That bothers me. I did want to bring it up. If you're a Patriots fan and you're frustrated over the past 3 years, get over yourself. Get over yourself. Everything has an ebb and flow to it. You get to the top, go back down, get back to the top, go back down. Some teams, if you're lucky, like the Patriots or the Alabama Roll Tide, if you're lucky, you do get to hang out at the top for a while. And if you're unlucky, you get to hang out at the bottom for a while. Anybody remember the Braves from the 70s, early 80s? Okay, so you can hang out at the bottom for a while too. The Titans in a few of those years, they went about 3 or 4 years where I don't remember them getting a win. I mean, they were going like 3-13. There's an ebb and flow to everything. And to be that entitled and that, I don't know, Spoiled. Spoiled's really the only word I can think of. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard, and it's annoying, and it's ridiculous that he expects to be at the top every year after they did it for 2 decades. So, Robert Kraft, if you read this, man, just chill out. You got a halfway decent quarterback. You still have a really good coach. You got a pretty good team. Y'all are going to be fine. You got to deal with the Buffalo Bills first. Miami just got really fast, too. Who's the other team? Jets? Never mind. Don't worry about them. But the Bills and the Dolphins, they might have something to say. So don't be too spoiled. Be happy with some of the things that you get. Ebb and flow. Remember that. Now, let's talk a little bit of baseball. Well, I don't think all of us thought that we were going to get baseball this year. Maybe most of us thought we would, but I think a lot of people were kind of scared that the lockout would really take baseball away from us. And I have to say that over the past few weeks, especially last week, since I didn't have my show or whatever, but over the past few weeks, just seeing some of the spring training highlights, it's got me excited about baseball again. I know as a Braves fan, there are other things going on within the organization and the whole Freddie Freeman thing. But I like Olsen. I like the rest of the guys we went out and got. I'm excited to watch the Braves play baseball this year. I'm also just excited in general to watch baseball. I watched a few highlights the other day of Mike Trout being back on the field. And I don't care who you are. If you're not a Mike Trout fan, you're an idiot. The dude is the best player in all of baseball when healthy. And I love Ronald Acuna, but Ronald ain't there yet. Mike Trout is the best player in all of baseball when he's healthy. And seeing him healthy back out on the field, he's got the short, compact swing. He hit a few lasers out in the left field the other day in the highlights that I saw. Of course, I don't keep up with the Angels; they're not very good. But I do like watching Mike and Shohei Ohtani, and they've got some guys I like keeping up with on the team. But I think I saw Byron Buxton make a sliding grab in center field the other day. I'm a big Byron Buxton fan. I think he flies around center field. He's as good as it gets when it comes to defense, and he's got good speed. And there are so many different players and so many different storylines and stuff to keep up with so far, but I'm just excited that baseball's back. And, the start of the season next week, I think yesterday they announced that the Braves-Reds opening game was going to be on ESPN2. I don't know why I can remember that, but it was like a random tweet. I think David O'Brien from The Athletic, I think he tweeted that out. I do want to give him credit for that. But Reds and Braves, ESPN2, opening day. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'm glad we played the Reds the first game to kind of, maybe get our feet underneath us because they have given up everything. And that was going to be my next kind of talking point in baseball is this year, if you know anything about football, Tyreek Hill is going to make more money this year from his contract than the entire Baltimore Orioles roster. And what that tells me is there's quite a few things going on. First of all, the Dodgers payroll is like $270 million. The Baltimore Orioles payroll is a hair over. It's like $30 million plus my salary. So it's a hair over $30 million. And I think it's ridiculous that you can have a difference of $240 million between two teams. Baseball poorly, like very badly needs a salary cap. And baseball also needs to do something about teams that are tanking. And I've talked to a lot of Reds fans. They're not happy that their team is just giving people away and not signing people back. They're not happy about it. I wouldn't be either. But y'all hear me out. I've come up with this idea. I've had this idea for a few years now. What if the way, and I think you should use this for every professional sport that has a draft in it. What if for the draft, the first overall pick goes to the team that had the best record that didn't get into the playoffs? And then you go backwards from that point. That way you could completely 100% legitimately get rid of all tanking because you're not going to have teams, unless you just have teams that legit just want to lose on purpose for no good reason, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But you would be able to get rid of a lot of tanking with that. Take away some of the things that losing gives you. Losing should not give you any type of award. I understand if it's T-ball and your nephew or your son or your daughter or whatever, niece, whatever, grandchild, if they're out here playing, nobody's keeping score, you don't keep up with balls and strikes, you're hitting the ball off the tee, kids are running wherever they want. I get the fact that you give those kids a trophy, no matter who wins and who loses. I get that. That doesn't bother me. But this is Major League Baseball. There should no longer be any type of incentive to lose. And that's exactly what these teams are doing. They save money, they get rid of their good players, they win 52 games, lose 110, and then they get the first pick. And they can go get the next generational prospect like Al Leiter's son, who I think the Rangers drafted, Jack Leiter. He was like the 7th pick. But, I mean, you wind up getting like people like Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg, Hunter Green. You start with the first few picks, you can usually try to find you a pretty good generational type prospect. And basically the draft has always incentivized losing in any sport. And baseball badly needs to do something to fix that. And I don't know what else can be done. I haven't really sat down and thought about it either. But the fact that some of these teams can just destroy their roster. Baltimore isn't going to win. They know they're not going to win. They're not trying to win. And don't get me wrong, I get it. The Yankees are always good. The Red Sox, they usually don't suck, and they've been fairly decent the last few years. They won a World Series a few years ago. The Rays, they just find their way to 95 wins and in the playoffs every single year. The Blue Jays might actually win the World Series this year. They've got talent all over the place, and they did go out and spend a bunch of money to go get that talent. But I get it. You got 4 really good teams in the AL East, and you ain't got a whole lot of spots to put them in. So Baltimore, they kind of know they're the odd man out. They may legitimately be the worst team ever this year. The Baltimore Orioles this year may be the worst team that has ever been fielded by a Major League Baseball team. I know there have been bad ones. I know that's a pretty hot take. I don't care. They are awful. And there needs to be something done to keep these teams from legitimately losing on purpose just so they can be better towards the end. Houston did it. Houston did it, what, about 10 years ago now? Maybe 8 years ago. They just got rid of everybody. They were losing on purpose. They were able to save a bunch of money. They were able to go out and draft some really good players. They got a hold of some pretty good players like Correa and Altuve, and we see what happened. Even without banging on a trash can, they still won the World Series. So baseball's got to do something to unincentivize losing. Sorry about that. But baseball has to do something. There's so many issues, but that's about all the griping and complaining I'm going to do on baseball. But we got one more take. We're going to talk. I guess I need to put my whole. It's not 3. It's the 4th take is coming up. High school sports. Stay here. All right. Sorry about that. Cheatham is on. The Cheatham schools are on spring break. So they're not really doing a whole lot. But Monday they did have a game between Sycamore and Cheatham County Central. They had a baseball game, and then Tuesday they had the second part of the other game. Well, anyway, the Monday's game was supposed to be at Cheatham County, but they're repaving the parking lot up there because it's spring break and kids aren't there. So they played both games at Sycamore. I made the drive out to Pleasant View, the full hour ride on 250. You can tell I hate that road. I love being out there in Pleasant View. That's a nice town. And Sidelines Grill, they've got some good food, but I hate driving 250. I've been thinking about getting me a motorcycle to make that ride, but I don't trust everybody else to drive it. But I made all the way out there to Pleasant View on Monday. Got to see a heck of a baseball game. Sycamore's Austin Williams had a complete game. He gave up one run. I want to say it was earned, But 7 innings, gave up 1 run. Sycamore was able to hold off Cheatham, got a 3-1 victory. Carter Purdue pitched for Cheatham, and he pitched really well also. I think he pitched 6 1/3. He wound up getting pulled for a pitch count, but he allowed 2 unearned runs on a. I mean, they had, I think, 2 outs, and it was first and second, and one got past the second baseman, and that was basically the difference in the game. Sycamore did add a run later, but then again, then they played Tuesday, and I was not at that game, but Sycamore got the win. I want to say 9-8. All this info's on Game Changer if you want to find the stats and stuff like that. But as far as I know, that's the only baseball or softball action going on. I think Harpeth is actually playing some baseball games, but they're on a spring break tournament. They're doing some kind of tournament. I want to say down in Florida. If that's not correct, I think Bill Clark told me, so y'all tell him he's wrong. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But not a whole lot of baseball and softball going on in Cheatham. I'm pretty sure there are some soccer games going on. I need to look at my schedule. There's like 18,000 different schedules I'm trying to keep up with now. But we got tennis going on right now. We've got soccer. What else? Track and field. So there's a lot going on. But for Dixon, those kids are, I mean, they might, I don't know if they're in school or not. I think their spring break was last week. But regardless, got a lot going on in Dixon. Now, y'all know how much I love the Creekwood-Dixon rivalry. I believe the way my schedule looks, we've got a soccer game Thursday between Dixon and Creekwood. That's going to be fun. Those are always fun, the matchups between the two schools. And then we've got a baseball game Friday at Creekwood. And then Saturday, Dixon and Creekwood are going to play at Dixon. And it's going to be I believe they're going to have the alumni game for Dixon County after that. They've been doing that the last few years. That's always a pretty fun event. I get to see some guys that I went to school with. They get out there and they're kind of stretching around like I am and not moving very good anymore. But it's still fun to get out there on the field, watch those guys get out there on the field. So let's see. What else did we have? Tennis. That's right. I saw Marty at the Creekwood Greenbrier softball game Tuesday. And Marty Allison, my photographer for the Dixon Post, he told me that he had shot a couple photos of the tennis match between Dixon and Clarksville, I want to say. But Creekwood was actually nice enough to allow Dixon to have their tennis match there at Creekwood. And so Dixon took on Clarksville. Man, the Dixon Post next week is going to be chock full of photos because the Dixon Creekwood baseball game, the Dixon Creekwood soccer game, Dixon tennis, Creekwood softball. There's always something going on, man. But this is a cool job. I get to watch sports for a living. So anyway, I believe that's all we've got for Casey's Takes today. So thank y'all for tuning in, and make sure. Let's see, where's it at? Right there at CVP51. That's my Twitter handle. Come find me. You want to argue with me? Argue with me. You want to send me some info? Send me some info. Help me do whatever I can to get the kids in the papers. So, but thank y'all for coming and watching my takes. And make sure you come back next week because I'll be here next week. Y'all have a good evening.
This has been Casey's Take on Sports. Casey Patrick covering high school sports all across Dixon and Cheatham counties. Follow him on Twitter at CVP51 and always online at mainstreetpreps.com. Casey's Take on Sports is a Main Street Media production.